Hello, everyone, and welcome back to WOR here for the Tier 2 PC Championship. It's round 7, and we're at France at circuit Paul Ricard. I'm Nathan Richards, and joining alongside me, as usual, is Sappy. Hello, Sappy. You excited for tonight?
I'm pretty excited, although that could be just the adrenaline from getting back from work so soon. No, in all reality, France, while some people have their opinions regarding it as a track, and of course in the real life season, it's a little bit dull,
Yeah,
league racing never fails to disappoint.
true. It is a really good track for league racing in the wet and the dry because I'd say it's one of the hardest tracks when it comes to track limits because it's very easy to invalidate, especially down at turn 3.
Absolutely. I mean, it is just like a concrete jungle,
Mhm.
and as much as the blue lines give you a good indication, you've also got red lines around. It's
Yeah.
the same colors as the curbs in a lot of cases, so you got to be careful.
Yeah, definitely. And also you got the white lines as well, so you got to watch out for so many different types of track limit, and also another difficult place down at turn 8 and 9 because sometimes you can get away with just about cutting it, other times you can't. So that's a bit of an iffy one as well.
Yeah, certainly a case of just finding your limits. I think we're going to see a lot of drivers do that in
Yeah.
qualifying, just testing the boundaries, testing the limits a little bit.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's certainly visually striking. But in terms of finding where you stand, it can be a little bit more challenging.
Yeah, definitely. And the standings, however, haven't changed up much from round 5 going into 6, but I believe they'll change a lot today because we have not got Harvey and Daniel racing. So Schmidt only needs to get fifth or higher in order to take the championship lead. Whereas Cameron Dowd, he's just about in it. If he can get the fastest lap along with the win, and Yannick Schmidt doesn't get fifth or higher, then Cameron can take the lead of the championship. So we've got two people at the moment in contention for taking the lead of the championship. Obviously, if none of those score points or don't score enough points, then Harvey still can maintain the lead. So we could have three possible people for the lead of the championship today, which is great. Obviously, Harvey's led it most of the way, I think, since around 3. So it would be nice for a bit of a change up. And obviously, Daniel, he's been looking to charge back after the championship, after the win in Hungary and the fifth place in Baku, Portugal. But obviously, he's not racing, so he's not going to be able to do any more today. So that will be interesting. But looking at the constructors as well, you can see that Alpine are leading by 2 points, meaning it'll be very easy for Alpine to extend their championship lead because obviously they haven't got Harvey to rely on, and Philip hasn't scored the most amount of points this season. Really, he's only scored the maximum of 6, which was at the first round. So it could be difficult for him to try and do better than Gianpietro and Cameron combined. Also, Bogdan, if he can win the race and Alpine don't score any points, nor Ferrari, I mean, not sorry, not Ferrari, I mean more nor McLaren, he could potentially put Alfa Romeo at the top spot. But obviously, with Bogdan's recent points, I don't think that's going to be likely. But looking down further in the standings, Sappy, who do you think has a chance to get some good points today?
That's a tough one. I mean, we got a lot of good contenders.
Hmm.
I think, say, the Alfa Romeos are potentially on fine form.
Hmm.
It looks to be like we're going to see a bit of clashing between the Alfa Romeos. We might also see a little bit of action from, say, Gianpietro um, to see
Hmm.
where this turns out. It's
Yeah.
it's a real sort of oddball. It's anyone's game, to be honest. I
Yeah.
can't really make a prediction, but what you can say in terms of the standings, got to
Hmm.
think we're at the halfway point of the season officially now.
Yeah.
So France is the first, I should say, the final race on the first half of the calendar. So this is where we can, at least in terms of championship contenders and fighters,
Hmm.
we should start to see those predictions be semi locked in at this
Yeah.
stage.
Definitely. I think after the third or fourth round, you can start to have a little bit of a hint. But I think at now, I think if we look back at the drivers, it's clear, I'd say, it's between the top four, unless the top four somehow have really bad races before Jeddah. Then that can obviously give Leroy and Gianpietro a chance. But I think the chances of that are very unlikely. So it's looking like the top four will be the people who will take the championship. And I think it's realistic to think that as well.
Yeah,
Um,
we are seeing the point
yeah.
where we're getting driver lockouts. So
Hmm.
statistically impossible. Is this where we start to hit that line? And
Yeah.
We've got so many variables as
Hmm.
part of the championship. Of course, people can have their good days, their bad days, their
Yeah.
absent days. That's always going to throw a wrench in the works. But
Hmm.
this is where you really start to lock in who you can put your money on.
Yeah, definitely. And before we take a look at the track, I'm just going to have a little look at the grid for today. So we've got Mercedes, we've got Sergio Sobrino and Lars Wutterman, as usual. Then Red Bull, we've got Harlan Marquis and Leroy Brown. Ferrari, we've got Tom Martinez and Mark Schluter. McLaren, we've got Philip Sacer and taking Harvey Cohen's place is Timo Zelenkiewicz. Alpine, we've got Jan Pietro and Cameron. AlphaTauri, we've got Simon Komsky and taking Lefty's place is Kamil Stachera. Aston Martin, we've got Yannick Schmidt and Quine de Baca. Williams, we've got JSC, and also we've got Jack Humphries out, so we've got a new reserving for tonight, which is Noel Carman, who's raced a lot in other tiers. I'm not sure if he's raced in WR before, but he's making his first appearance today for Tier 2, which should be great to see what he can do. Alfa Romeo, we've got Bogdan Moldovan and Tony Richet. Obviously, Tony was in Mercedes full time, but he dropped down to reserve, so today he's taking the seat of the Alfa Romeo instead of Daniel Yeltsin. Then final team on the board, we got Andre Molnar and Ballas Palmer. So it's a strong grid today. So we've got 5 reserves on the board, if I read that correctly. So it could be interesting to see what happens with the standings, especially when we've got McLaren, Alfa Romeo, both with reserves. Obviously, if you're a reserve driver, your points won't go towards the team, so it'll just, so just say Zelenkiewicz won, McLaren wouldn't get any points. It'll just be Zelenkiewicz who get points on the board.
Yeah, and I think I will say Coleman, seeing Coleman on the grid warms my heart. I got very familiar with him in the F5 paddock. Chat to him a lot because he did really sort of clean house in the F5 category at PSGL. So good to see him here in WOR. And of course, with 7 races to go, you can't really, as a team, be affording the reserves side of
Yeah.
things. So constructors still anyone's game,
Hmm.
I think, but drivers is where we're really starting to see those sort of things
Yeah.
converge. And it looks like before long we might be heading
Mm.
in. So shall we take a look at the calendar?
Yes, we should. Yeah, we should.
All right, so I'll rail them off quick. So, of course, we are in the second half of the season by this point. We are getting into France, Le Castellet, aka Port Ricard, heading off this weekend. But the second half of the calendar is just getting started. You've got to say Bahrain, Saudi Arabia. That looks like a bell for me, so I have got to go and grab that. Abu Dhabi, Imola, China, Britain, and then aiming to end in Austria at the end of April.
Yeah. All right, so while Sappy goes on, I believe it's to fetch some food from the door, I will talk you through the track. So here we are, Le Castellane. Paul Ricard, a very well-known circuit. It's got about a million different layouts. It's got 2 DRS zones, one going down towards turn 1 and then one going down towards the chicane at 8 and 9. And as you can see, the first 2 corners, a bit of a chicane, high speed really, drop down to 5th, chuck it in, you're going to be very careful because there's a bit of an elevation down on the exit of turn. So you go into turn 3, where you see many drivers make mistakes in terms of track limits. You go through 4 and 5, and then you got 6 and 7, where you lead onto DRS straight, down towards the 8 and 9 chicane. Yet again, another popular place to see overtakes. It's probably the most likely place we'll see some overtakes being made. Then you head out of 8 and 9, you go up in towards 10 11, which is after the long straight. One of the corners, I believe it's 10, is Le Beausset, which is a very famous corner. Once you've gone through 11, you go in towards 12, another place for overtakes. Very popular place for overtakes, actually. The overtakes always look satisfying to watch from turns through 10 and 11. Then you go in towards 12, which is a bit of an uphill, into 13 and 14, bit of a snaky section where you meet the pit lane. Then the final corner, turn 15, which is a bit of a hairpin, which you lead onto the straight so you can begin the next lap.
And there you go. So, fun fact 247 possible configurations this track has. So, this is just one of many, many formats. As like you can reconfigure it for much faster racing, much slower racing, a lot of chicanes. But yeah, I think we could say we've got the optimal config with this one.
Yeah. And I think, see, I see a lot of hate for this track, especially in league racing and even in real life. But I think, 2021 we had a good race between Hamilton, Verstappen. Last few laps it was all about Verstappen on the different tyres, different strategy getting through. And Hamilton, it created a battle to I think it was like 51. We had a battle till, so it was great, and I really enjoyed that race. And then last year, um, obviously we had Charles Leclerc crashing, that caused some drama with safety cars. And then we had lots of overtakes. We had Ocon and Tsunoda clashing down at turn 8. And I think yet again, I think that was a really good race because also you had the incident, not the incident, you had the the thing with Russell and Perez, where Perez was kind of sleeping, apparently was something to do with the DRS timer being wrong, and then it caused kerfuffle. Russell got through on Perez easily. So it was a very dramatic race, but last year it also created a lot of entertainment. So I think, to be honest, people hate on the French Grand Prix, but I really love it. Obviously, it's not on the calendar next year, I don't think, is it? You got This was
Mhm.
its last race. I believe it'll be coming back as more of a it'll come back every couple of years, same as what they're planning to do with Spa. But yeah, I
Yeah, I
really
think
like the track, so this is probably one of the races I'm excited for, definitely.
Yeah, I think it's more of a seasonal thing that they're looking to do. But I think if I had to put it down to
Hmm.
anything, I think it's the fact that it's a very, well, we'll call it engineered track. Of course,
Hmm.
you've got the very striking, say, like hard asphalt versus runoff, and it's very flat as a
Yeah.
track. And I think that's where a lot of character comes from a circuit.
Hmm.
So it's not necessarily a bad circuit in any stretch because it's functional. It does what it's designed to do. I
Hmm.
think a lot of the hate simply comes from the fact that it is a very flat circuit. It's lacking a little bit in character, I feel.
Yeah.
And I know we mentioned about before the 247 configurations. I think in some ways that can work to its detriment in a
Yeah.
lot of ways. So,
It can be a bit overwhelming, can't it?
yeah, by having so much customization, you lose a lot of its character, I
Yeah.
think. It's a juggling act. And yes, it's a very versatile track,
Hmm.
but at the same time, it's very almost this like jack of all trades, master of none. If I had to put it into a phrase to try and describe it, I think that's where we're looking at.
But good news is we're getting into the lobby. We're going to get something for qualifying. Obviously, in WR Tier 1 last night, I believe it was a dry qualifying session, but it was a completely wet race. Obviously, Otis Lawrence dominated the field there. I believe after about 6 or 7 laps, he was about 4 seconds ahead. At one point, he was about 7 seconds ahead. So he obviously dominated everyone. Would have probably been down to just skill and the setup he used. But it should be interesting here as well because these are yet again some of the other quickest drivers we have on the field, and we're getting started now. Is it dry or is it wet? Let's have a look when we get into
Here's
the lobby.
the roll of the dice. The
It's
roll of the
dry,
dice is looking dry. It's
sunny.
looking nice and dry.
So I have a
And
nice, dry quality session. I'm just going to get everything set up.
okay, well, let's see who comes out first. And I think drivers are going to be trying to get out as quick as possible. You can see, say, the pit crew is absolutely primed to let those cars out on the dot on the second. Looks like we're getting Harlan McKees out as well to be the first driver. Just saw a little bit of movement from their pit wall.
Bogdan.
Although saying that, that's Bogdan.
Yep.
Yeah,
First
Alfa
driver
Romeo
out.
first out on track.
Obviously, when it comes to track limits around here, there's sometimes a few issues on this track. So, the track limits around here, the corners that we're going to be focusing on, in terms of the way people can extend and cut them, is turn 2, the exit at turn 2, the exit at turn 5, the exit at turn 6, the exit at turn 7, and the exit at turn 11. Sometimes it can cause a bit of issues and people might not get penalties, and sometimes you might not go off the track, but you might get a penalty or an invalidation. So that's where the stewards will be looking at. And also when it comes to the pit lane, if you enter the pit lane to the left of the first separation point on the entry, you may receive a 5-second penalty. And if you go over the white line on the exit after separation point 2, you yet again may receive a 5-second penalty. So that's where drivers are going to be careful in when it comes to pitting. Bogdan's gone off the track there at the exit of turn 9, but doesn't matter because he's not on an actual lap and he's going to be heading
Yeah,
in
it's only
towards
his out
turn
lap.
10 soon.
Yeah, I think it's just at the moment, drivers are just feeling out the limits. Of course, they will have like warnings when it comes to the race, but you kind of want to get those hiccups out as early as possible. So,
Yeah.
like in the case of Bogdan, I think it just say cooked it a tiny bit too much, and just sort of fired it through. It really, I have to wonder how hard they're willing to push and how hard they're willing to go for this. But saying that, I think we're about to find out what we can expect.
Yeah.
What is the benchmark? Because we're about to start a lap with Bogdan. So if we hop on board, let's go for a bit of a play-by-play. So first things first, we gun it down the start-finish straight. You're looking easily 200 miles an hour as that DRS opens right up. 204, we saw a peak there from the Alfa Romeo, and keeping it nice and tight to the curbs, although losing the rear a little bit as it comes through the first sector. He just manages to hold on, but there we go, pushing it nice and deep into the curbs, using a little bit of heel and toe almost, it looks like, as he sort of pushes around, tries to keep it sort of as tight a line as possible. That's the main thing here, where there's no undulation, there's no camber banking to really make use of. You have to absolutely nail your lines. But here we go, back straight now, really opening up the taps of that F1 car. 206, 207 before gunning it down, hitting it on the brakes, down to fourth gear. Really just seeing where they can afford the most space, how early they can get on the throttle. Test of bravery there, and we saw a little bit of shuffling there from Bogdan's Alfa Romeo, but it's saying that kept it nice and tight. So looking good through the second sector. Can they hold it all together in the third? That is the question. You can see sort of swings it out wide to come back, diving in. But that is an invalidation. He just puts it a little bit too much on that sector 3.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the attempt done.
Yep, that's it for Bogdan. You could see just about cutting that track by a fine margin. And like I said before, this is one that's actually going to be really careful with the track limits. We're going on board with Yannick Schmidt now as he comes through the first set. So he's actually gone purple with the 22.1. Looking in the chat, Cameron's dad says, let's go, son. And ERO Cameron says, Cameron dead's for the win. So Cameron's got lots of support today in the chat. So maybe he can make that wish come true for those guys. But on board with Yannick Schmidt with the DRS open. He's charging into turn 8 and 9 now. Andre Molnar sets the first lap of the session with a 29.912, and I'm sure that will be beaten already by Corner Backer, who goes 2 tenths quicker with the 29.7. His teammate Yannick Schmidt at 49.5. That's 5 tenths quicker than what Bogdan was doing, so he's looking to be scoring a really good lap. JSD goes into second, just 700ths behind the back of Corner Backer with the 29.771. Still standing on board Yannick Schmidt as he comes through in towards turn 13 now, and that is Leroy Brown with the 29.9. Same as Philip Says to the 29.9. Yannick Schmidt coming in towards 14 now, in towards turn 15. Let's see. Where will Yannick Schmidt put his Aston Martin? Obviously, it's a bit of a longer drive down the main straight to get to the start-finish line. And let's see, up towards the line, it's going to be 29. It's going to be 29.3. 4 tenths quicker than the likes of Corne de Baca.
There you go. That's the kind of pace we're looking for in here in this session. You want to be sub 29.5. That really is the benchmark for a good run. Of course, everyone is in the 29 so far, and we're going to see more people join that rank. Yeah. But really, 29.5, that's your benchmark to beat. Tom Martinez, 30.091. Not quite going to be hitting that threshold that they wanted to. And it looks like that is kind of the theme here. So we've had the fastest runners saying that. Simon Lekomsky, 29.5. Tony Richet, 30.2. And we've got a few more cars coming out. I think that's Williams about to cross the line there. And that looks like... Oh, no, that was, I believe, a Red Bull. I think it was Leroy Brown.
Team Zelenkiewicz up to the line. Set to 29.694. Puts him into P3 as a reserve. I believe this is his second or third appearance here today. We're on board with Cameron Dowd, one of the guys who could be looking to take the championship lead after this race, and I believe he's let off on his lap. Yes, he has let off. So I believe he'll be heading back into the pits, which he is. So that's Cameron going without a run in the first part of the qualifying session. So we're going on board with Mark Schluter, who's currently coming through in towards turn 12 and 13. Now, he's been not having the best form, unfortunately. Only scored about, I think it was 3 points so far this season. But obviously, could be looking to score some good points today if he can get himself into the top 10. Kamil Sachara, 7th to 29.869. But we've got Mark Schuster coming up towards the line. Where can he put his Ferrari? Can he get ahead of his teammate? No, he can't. The 30.295. Really, really poor lap there from Mark, nearly second off the likes of Yannick Schmidt. So we'll definitely have a lot of work to do. Noel Carman has invalidated on his first run in the Williams. Making his first appearance, hasn't gone too good so far, so we'll be having to head back into the pits to get a new, fresh set of tyres to get back out. Bogdan, yet again, he's starting another lap. He'll be heading on to his second lap, obviously invalidated his first one down at the exit of turn 11 into turn 12, but he's currently coming through into turn 5 shortly. As you can see, very close to invalidating there, but he keeps it in the track, barely, and he's then going to be getting the DRS open as he exits turn 7.
Well, I think as they look like it's a pretty strong lap so far from Bogdan, just keeping that car together. Yeah, Dowds ended up heading into the pits because he ran out of battery, so he's heading into the pits with about 5%, and he had to let off. I'm not sure what happened there, but it was just a case of burning all the battery that he had before he got to the end of the lap, so of course it wouldn't be that optimal pace that he's really looking for. 49.9 for a Sector 2 for Bogdan Molderman, and it's looking like on the whole, it's going to be about half a second down compared to best. Might just be enough for a 29 if they absolutely nail this third sector. We'll have to wait and see. Coming up to a bit of traffic. I believe that is Mark Schluter. But they're also on a hot lap. Let's see what they can Bring out. Actually, no, they're heading back into the pits. My mistake there. Come around final corner. Little bit wide on the apex there, but tries to hang it out so they can get on the throttle a little bit earlier. Get that absolute top speed heading through the start-finish line. What's it going to be? It's going to be a 29.8. That's enough for P7.
Yeah, very nice there from Bogdan. Obviously, after his first run, he's really got himself back onto form. Obviously, he has only scored 10th this season or lower. So, obviously, starting in P7, that wouldn't be too bad. It would be his highest scoring position this season so far. But we're on board with Gian Pietro Aguiano as he's about to come up to the line in his Alpine. Where does he go with his Alpine? Goes up to P2 with a 29.508. Very nice there from Gian Pietro's teammate. However, he's also coming through into the final part of the track, but I believe he's getting ready to set his first lap. So we'll go on board with Cameron, as he'll be looking to set his first lap of the qualifying session. Obviously invalidating his first run. I believe it will probably be down at turn 9. So he's now just got up to the start-finish straight to begin his first lap of the session. Obviously down in 19th, hasn't set a lap. Cameron should be looking to get himself into that top 5. Into turn 1, you can see riding the curb, brakes very nice, and luckily doesn't get much of a loses the rear as he comes out of turn 2, sticking in 5th now up towards 7th, doesn't shift up to 8th, down to 4th into turn 3, very nice. You can see riding the curb as much as he can. It's got a very high ride height on that car. In towards turn 6 now, you can see brings it out wide on the exit, so we can chuck it into turn 7 nicely, getting the DRS open. Let's see how quick he can get down this main straight before he heads into turn 8. Just over 320 kilometers an hour. He'll probably get to 330 at this rate as he goes in towards turn 9. Brakes just before the 50-meter board. Hits about 332, and you can see very close to invalidating there on the exit at turn 9. But he's now going to be charging up towards Lebose at turn 10 and 11. Obviously no DRS here down this bit of straight, so it's all about raw setup here. And he goes purple in that middle sector there as he charges through turn 10 into 11, where Charles Leclerc crashed in 2022. Obviously he doesn't repeat the same. You can see it goes wide on the exit at turn 11 to get a nice line on the apex into turn 12. Now charging to turn 13 yet again, taking a wider line so we can swoop it into turn 14. Very nice so far from Cameron Dowds as he comes into the final couple of corners now. And you can see a little bit wide there. I don't think that was too much planned. Misses the apex a little bit on the entry to turn 15. Now he's on the power. Charges up towards the line. Where can Cameron put his Alpine? Can he get ahead of his teammate, or will he be stuck behind? He'll be P4 with a 29.557.
That was a really good lap there from Cameron Dowds. And I think it has to be said that even when they had a few moments where they took the line a little bit too wide, missed the apex a little bit, that car looked so planted. It's unreal. So we've crossed that halfway point in qualifying. But yeah, I think a lot of drivers were expecting some curb riding over the course of this race. So as a result, I think they have sprung their cars a little bit more softly, raised the ride height a little bit, just to keep that stability. And yes, you can have that speed, but more importantly, can you handle it?
Yannick Schmidt up to the line. Does he improve? Doesn't. 3900 stone, but gets the purple final sector. Lukomski beginning his second lap of the session, currently on a 29.522. He's just coming in towards turn 3 now. A bit of traffic ahead, so hopefully they don't get in the way. Could also be a move from his teammate to give him a bit of a tow down the main straight. Kamal Sasharat, I don't know if he's on that, but let's have a look. If we go on board with Simon, he's 3100 staying in that first sector, and that's just the Red Bull getting out the way nicely. And I don't believe his teammate will give him a tow. No, he's not. So it's down to just the DRS and the setup alone as he charges down towards turn 8. Tom Lukomski having a nice run of qualifying. Unfortunately, hasn't been able to produce much of that into race results. But hopefully today he can prove us wrong and get himself a nice position. Obviously, Cameron Day was just 300s behind so far on this quality session.
Well, your use of the toe is kind of a little bit limited on this circuit compared to some others, just because there's so many medium to high speed corners, fast flowing segments, long 180-degree plus corners, that really you're losing a lot of time from dirty air. Although it has been greatly reduced with this generation of cars, you are still losing that little bit of time, because 80% of grip versus say like 60-50% is still a loss.
Leo Brown goes up to P2 with 29.491, just a tenth lower than Yannick Schmidt. Simon Lukomski goes up towards the line. Where can he go? Up to pole with a 29.297, just 900ths quicker than Yannick Schmidt. So Simon Lukomski looking for his first, I believe, provisional pole of the season. Leo Brown having a nice lap as well as he's gone himself into P3. JSD up to P3 with a 29.384. So now the times are really moving up. Team of Zelenkiewicz up to 4th, the 29.415, gets through on Leroy Brown. Andre Molnar into 8th at 29.6 on board with Harlan Marquis. Currently down in 18th, hasn't set a lap time yet. Donny Richet goes up to 15th with a 29.824.
Yeah, so good jumps to say. Noel Carmen and all of that also jumped up to P14 from 20th because they were validating earlier. And that just leaves Harlan Marquis and Lars Butterman, the only drivers yet to set a time. We've got 5 minutes left in qualifying, so we're kind of running out of laps here for those two. They're going to have to get a move on.
They are indeed. Harlan Marquis currently coming down in towards turn 8 and 9 now. The chicane, you can see just chucking the car in. A bit of a loss of rear there. Oh, and hops the curb. He keeps that lap time, but I believe he will have lost time there. So that could be Harlem's lap over. 50.9 in that middle set. Yep, that's Harlem done for now. Bogdan Moldovan, he's just currently coming through in towards turn 12 now. He's on his, I believe, third lap so far, and he's currently up, I believe, in that middle sector. He's on 29.8 at the moment, so just 200s behind his teammate, who's in P16. Let's see, where can Bogdan put his Alfa Romeo? You can see a little bit of a lock up there, misses the apex at turn 15. Going to lose him a little bit of time, but he's coming up towards the line now. Can he get himself into that top 10? Bogdan Moldovan up towards the line. Doesn't improve 9 thousandths down. So that's really not good for Bogdan. Noel Carmen is invalidated. He's 8 tenths down on his lap, so he's not going to be improving. JSD also heading in towards the pit lane. So now everyone will be getting ready for their final runs of qualifying.
Yeah, that lock up on the final corner, that was the deal breaker. If they had that, they would have at least surpassed their teammate, if not gone further. It really is tough when you have such what you feel like is a good lap and then you bottle it on the last sector or the last corner. It's such a bitter feeling, but at the same time, you kind of have to look at it from two perspectives. It's one, yes, I bottled it, but two, if I didn't bottle it, I would have made an improvement.
Yeah.
So hang on to that hope.
Exactly. You know you got the time in there, you just got to get that part of the track right. At the moment, Alpine are looking really good on the 6th and 7th, whereas Philippe Sousa, then in 10th. So Alpine are looking to probably extend their championship lead by about 10 or 15 points. Yannick Schmidt's also in 2nd at the moment, so if he can turn that into a 2nd in the race, he will become the championship leader.
Yeah, it's all about the conversions at this point. Yeah, qualifying will set you up well, but remember, it's all about the race and converting that qualifying into good points. So Yannick Schmidt's in a prime position right now, I'd say, just because he's going to be able to, if he can keep it tight to Simon Lekomsky's tail, because DRS kicks off, and then he'll be able to keep him reined in until it's convenient for him. So especially if he goes on an alternate strategy, it's a big gamble, but one that could work out.
Exactly, that's the thing. You know, when you're at this top level, you've got to be taking these risks in order for it to pay off. Sometimes it will pay off heavily, sometimes it won't at all, but that's part of the sport. So, you know, this is the decisions the drivers have to make. We're on board with Tom Martinez now. He'll be the first driver to begin in his lap. He's just coming through into turn 8. Everyone else all huddling out together. The two Mercedes with the Ferrari just behind there coming into turn 2. Now, so obviously everyone's going to be having to slow down as they come down the two back straights in order to make sure they can actually get a lap in without hitting the person in front of them. But Tom getting ahead nicely ahead of the field. But the issue is you've got to hope he's not too quick behind the others. Otherwise, he might end up catching up to them, which is not ideal. He's just coming through turn 11 now, as he'll be looking to set his final lap here. He's currently 9th, really nice for him. Obviously hasn't scored any points this season so far, so a 9th place would be very nice. But obviously he's got to make sure he can convert his qualifying into race, which for some drivers can be quite easy, for others can be a different story.
Yeah, some other drivers may absolutely thrive in the quali environment, but when it comes to the race, that pressure of other drivers, that constant fighting, it's a difficult balance to find. But if you have that pace and you can unlock it, you just need to learn to find your way, find your room. Anyway, on board with Tom Martinez now. Love how everyone goes as far to the right as possible. They know that they're going to absolutely belt it. They need the maximum arc that they can possibly get. Even hugging it tight to the left side of the curbs just shows how much time and space they're willing to scrub off these laps. How finely they're adhering to the margins here. It almost looks like at some point they are really riding the curbs with all 4 wheels, but you know they're not. They're just shy of it. Like they find that perfect line, that perfect margin, and it is absolutely amazing. But with that Ferrari, a little bit lower top speed overall, about 205 versus the 207s and 208s we've seen some of the other cars at. So a bit grippier, maybe a little bit more aggressive wing, just have the stability on the car, make up a bit of time in some of the other sectors here. But yeah, 49.7, so a net improvement from their previous, Tom Martinez here, and can they convert it? into a Sector 3 belter. A little bit wide on the entry, but arcs it in nicely, gets a really good send, and heading into turn 13 here. Oh, a little bit of a wiggle for Tom Martinez. Can he salvage it? Is he going to commit? Of course, he knows that this is now or never. He's got no battery to recharge for another potential run. So this is like, yeah, do or die time. He had that improvement, but is that wiggle going to be too much? It's going to be a still improvement, but not enough to advance. He's going to be first across the finish line with a 0.657.
Yep. On the board with Leroy Brown, he's currently coming through in towards turn 14 and 15. Now his teammate just ahead. Have a look where to see where Harlan Marquis can go as he comes up towards the line. Goes up to second for Harlan Marquis. Very nice. But on board with his teammate Leroy Brown, where can he get in this qualifying session? Doesn't improve. So he's now down, stuck in 6th. We'll go on board with Team Zelenkiewicz. He's coming towards the line. Doesn't improve either. Cameron Dowd, he's currently coming through the middle sector. Yannick Schmidt goes quickest with a 29.229. Simon Lukomsky goes even quicker with a 29.158. This is looking to be really interesting now. At the end of this session, JSD doesn't improve. Cameron Dowd, he's coming up towards the line now. Where can he put his Alpine? Up towards the line, moves up to 5th. Gian Pietro Giano, he's also coming through the final couple of corners. He's invalidated, so that's his session over. Andre Monarch currently coming through in towards turn 13. That's just an Altair there. Getting out of the way, that'll be Camel Stacherat. Can Andre improve and put himself into the top 8? Maybe the top 5, if he can get such a good lap. But so close between the top 5 so far. But Yannick Somokovsky, really nice lap, put him onto pole for now. Andre Monarch towards and goes 3rd. Very nice so far. And the final person to set a lap will be Camel Stacherat, who's broke his front wing. But that was a really nice qualifying session.
Yeah, craziness in that sort of last segment there. Everyone just firing on all cylinders. This is go. This is absolute do or die time. They knew it for sure. Simon Lukomsky, 0.158. That pace has truly been unlocked here at Paul Ricard. Yannick Schmidt going with the P2 though. Really kind of shaking up things. And it's certainly going to be taking the fight to the top end of things with such a... It almost feels like a little bit of a power vacuum because we've got some of our protagonists not racing tonight. There's a power vacuum and some drivers are very desperate to fill it.
Exactly. And see, for me, the biggest surprise is Andre and Harlem. Very nice laps from those two. Andre only scoring, I think it's been about 6 or 7 points so far this season. Haas down in 8th in the championship. So this is looking really nice for Andre Molnar. Obviously, Yannick Schmidt was looking on a really good qualifying session with his banker being a 0.3. Obviously, only could improve by a 10th. And Tom Lukomsky absolutely on fire so far this qualifying session with a 29.158 and takes pole here at France. But if you're going to say one person who you think will win, who are you going to say? Because I'm going to say Yannick Schmidt.
I don't know. I think... Oh, that's tough. I want to say Lukomsky. I want to say it. But it's so unpredictable. And starting in that top spot, it's both a blessing and a curse. Because you can control the race, but also the racers control you once DRS kicks in.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hedge my bets. You know what? I'm sticking Lukomsky.
So it's Lukomsky versus Schmidt. So far for us too. Everyone else in the chat, let us know who you think will win the race. It should be an interesting one for sure. Obviously, DRS will play a massive part unless it rains. Is it wet? Is a question. No, it's dry. So we've got a dry race ahead of us. So we haven't got to worry about a longer race because there'll be no rain. Well, it looks like there'll be no rain anyway. There might some might come further through the race, but that's probably doubtful now. But obviously everyone's going to be getting the setups ready as we get ready to begin the French Grand Prix. 7th round already at the halfway point in the season, which for me has gone really, really quick. It doesn't feel like we're here for the 7th round.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that the rounds simultaneously, they feel like forever apart, but also they go so quick. It's insane to think. But here we go. 7 rounds in, about to cross that halfway point. It got 5 red lights on the track. The track is hot. Drivers are primed. And we are away. It looks like a real slow start there for Simon Lukomsky. Yannick Schmidt gets a real good launch out of the start. And it's also going to be 3, 4, almost 5 wide as Lukomsky drops immediately down to 4th. Drops like a stone, fighting with Harlan Marquis. Yannick Schmidt immediately getting a massive getaway as Andre Molnar takes the lead of that second queue. Cameron Dowds also posting his Alpine and trying to get a
Safety
little bit of
car.
headway. Safety car immediately out, though. What's happened?
An incident then with, I think it was Mark Shooter spun, hit Bogdan or Tony Richet, one of the two. And then also Tom Martinez got involved, but obviously Mark Shooter out of the race. Really, really poor for Ferrari. Obviously, I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was Mark's fault or someone else's, but obviously Mark qualified last, and he's currently only last now. But one person who got a really good start was Bogdan Moldovan. Yep, started 19th, he's up to 13th.
That's insane gains there. Oh, that's crazy.
Indeed.
We had such a fiery fight at the top end of things, and Yannick Schmidt got such a good getaway. He must be absolutely fuming right now, because think of it, he got 7/10 out, almost a full second just in the first lap, and now he's immediately getting reeled back in by the safety car.
Yeah, and obviously Yannick Schmidt taking the lead. Andre Molnar up to second, so he had a really good start. Simon Lekomsky just didn't have it on the start, did he? Really, really struggled on the initial launch. In the second phase, he managed to claw it back in, but it's just that first phase was so ruined, he couldn't claw it back enough to, try and fight back for the lead. Obviously, Andre making a really nice move up the inside. Yannick Schmidt had a perfect start. He was already away before they got into turn one. Harlan Marquis was also getting involved around the outside, obviously stuck in fourth still. So, yeah, really good start from Andre and Yannick. And that's someone's fell down the grid. Oh, no, people are pitting, sorry. That's Camille, Noel, I think it's Cornet. And so, hang on, no, there we go. So we've got Camille, Noel, Cornet, Tony, and Tom. Let's have a look if that's for wings. I'm not quite sure. Camille, I don't know if that was a new front wing. It could be. I have an idea what they're doing. I think I know exactly what they're doing. The strategy where they pit onto softs or mediums to then pit back onto hards, possibly, to make it to the end. We'll be able to see.
It looks like they're going to be going, I think, for the net tire zero strategy. In a way, that's a really contrived name. I'm sorry. Yeah, but it looks like they're going to be pitting potentially next lap as well, like you say, because that will effectively nullify the two compound rule, meaning that they can take the hards to the end.
The thing is, though, for drivers like Tony Richet, he was already down in 18th. So maybe him pitting onto mediums, he could be going for a double medium strategy because he didn't lose anything at all from pitting there. So he could pit now, stay on mediums, then maybe lap 14 or 15, I'm not quite sure, could then pit onto a new set of mediums to go, because if he can get a good jump on the mediums under the restart, he can make a few positions by the time we pit back onto, by the time all the hard runners pit onto mediums. So then, Tony Richet can also pit onto mediums, and he's already jumped a few positions because he was on the mediums at the start, whereas everyone else was on the hards. So this could be a really good strategy from Tony. Then again, he could be doing something different. Obviously, when they come through back to the pit lane, we'll be able to see what the strategy is, but I believe it's either pit onto mediums to pit back onto your old tyres, or do a double medium strat.
Well, I have to wait and see. And of course, you've got the absolute wild card. That's Tom Martinez on the softs right now, about to rejoin the queue.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is where we were saying, and just sort of bring the highlight back to Simon Lekomsky, this is where we're saying the starting in pole is just as much of a curse as it is a blessing, because you get that sense of pressure that you don't quite get with second or third. So it's fully plausible. And what I believe happened is they maybe felt that pressure and just gunned the throttle a little bit too much at the start, and that's kind of what scuppered him over a little bit.
Definitely. So, and there we go. So Tom going obviously for the strategy where you'll pit back onto your old tyres, whereas the other four are going for the strategy where they're going to probably go double medium, if I'm correct. If I'm wrong, in the chat, let me know. But at the moment, it looks pretty clear to be doing that strategy for Camille, Noel, Cornet, and Tony. Obviously, Tony's the one who's lost nothing. So, why not try something different to the others? Might pay off, might not pay off. But, like I said before, you've got to take those risks to see if it can work out.
Yeah, you really have to decide whether you want to be experimental or whether you want to be consistent. Now, if you're at the top end of the field, you really don't have a choice, in all honesty, because you have to save track position at all costs. Being in a position like Yannick Schmidt, Andre Molnar, Simon Lekomsky, Harlan McKees, Cameron Dowds, they can't deviate whatsoever, because as soon as they lose that track position, all hope is lost. And with the safety car congregating everyone, that loss is going to be massive. You contrast that with people like Cornet, Tony Richet, who really don't have that much to lose in terms of position, and they're going to immediately gain it back anyway by catching up to the queue. So they can afford to make those optimizations in tire strategy or be a little bit more experimental in this pursuit of getting back up to the top.
Yeah, definitely. So it's going to be an interesting restart for the likes of Camille, no, and Cornet. The safety cars in this lap, so only a 2-lap safety car, so we'll be getting back underway. But the people at the back will be the ones you want to be watching. So Camille obviously be looking to get through on Lars and Ballas probably in the first couple of laps, and then it's all about how hard are these hard defenders going to defend. Are they going to defend for their life, or they're going to think actually they're quicker, let them through, we can get them back in the second phase of the stint, or get them back in the second stint.
Well, I have to wonder, given how we've had a little bit of slow running to deviate, could we see a hard soft?
I don't think that would be an optimal strategy at all. I couldn't see that working out at all for anyone because it's just a slower strategy in general. If someone tries that, fair enough to them, but I can't really see that working. Maybe if in the bottom, like maybe for like in Lars in 14th or 13th, try it, see if it works, but I don't think it'll be that possible really to make it pay off. But we can see Yannick Schmidt will be leading the pack off in towards turn 1, coming into the final corner. Now Bogdan's retired on track. I don't know what's happened there, but he's out. Philip Saucer's pitted, Leroy Brown's pitted, and we're off. We're off. Really nice start from Yannick Schmidt, but also Andre getting a good start, and Simon Lekomsky as they charge into turn 1. So I'm just over a 10th behind. Andre's ahead into turn 1, and he's about to go side by side for a second, but back there at the last second. Cameron Dayes and JSD fighting out of turn 2, and Cameron still keeps that 5th place with JSD still very much close behind. And Simon Lekomsky gets through on Andre Molnar down at turn 3, and there you can see Andre going to be under a bit of pressure now from Harlem. And also, Yannick Schmidt has got a 7/10th lead. So this is starting really well for Yannick Schmidt so far. We've also got a little bit of a battle behind with JSD and Cameron again, and also Sergio Sobrino getting involved as the head out of turn 7. What a restart. I'm still trying to figure out what happened with Bogdan. And also we can see Philip, Leroy and Ballas pitting. Obviously Leroy started really well, and I think he was in 6th place. He's now down at the bottom in 17th, so I really don't know what's happened between those guys, but still keeping on board with Sergio Sobrino as he's gaining a lot on JSD there, as you can see him coming out at turn 9, now heading in towards Le Bose at turn 10. Gianpietro Ogiano also getting close to the back of Timo Zelenkiewicz, so the gaps are starting to get really, really close now, as you can see. That'll be Gianpietro up the inside of Timo Zelenkiewicz there down at turn 11. You can see still going side by side. Timo with the inside line in towards turn 12. Now you can see going a long way around with Ogiano, but couldn't get it to pay off. Also, Timo had to slam on the brakes a little bit more because Sergio was just ahead. But Gianpietro not laying off just yet. Goes up the inside into 14 now. And still trying to go side by side. And you can see them coming out the final corner. Gianpietro just over a 10th behind. And I think that's all Gianpietro could do just for this moment in time, because you can see Timo, bit of higher top speed, pulls away a bit, is ahead into turn 1.
It's so aggressive there from Ogiano, and you really have to wonder, like, at what point do you yield? Because he's burning battery, I think, in a lot of cases, just for the sake of it. He's on 50% now. Timo Zelenkiewicz is on 71 and about fluctuating around there. It looks like a little bit of trading as Ogiano and Kemal Stachura are trading places. He's going to be heading down the inside. Ogiano is going to be left a little bit worse for wear, but he's going to hold the line regardless. A little bit of bump, but it's going to be Camille taking P8 for now. Of course, on the medium tyres, kind of a sitting duck in a lot of ways. And Zelenkiewicz, amidst all of this, has now been demoted behind Ogiano again. So maybe just taking a little bit of advantage, capitalising on the shake-up that is Camille pushing through to get that position back.
Noel Carman on to the back of Zelenkiewicz now as they head into turn 10. Probably got the inside line for Noel. As we can see, into turn 11 now. Brakes early. Does he go for the inside line? Yes, he does. Shoot it up the inside. Has to be careful he doesn't hit the back of Ogiano. And Zelenkiewicz still sticking with him as they head into turn 12. Once again, obviously, last time it was Ogiano and Zelenkiewicz. This time it's Noel and Zelenkiewicz, but Noel gets through at the exit of turn 13. Now as they head into 14 and 15, Zelenkiewicz won't be able to fight that back. Going a little bit wide there for Zelenkiewicz at turn 14. Don't know if he's got damage or if he's just taking a bit of a wider line there. Also, Corey de Baca will be looking to get through on Zelenkiewicz as well, because these hard tyres are a lot slower than the medium. Yannick Schmidt goes quickest with a 34.0, and you can see DRS now being enabled. So we could see Simon Lekomsky yet again trying to fight for the lead along with Andre Molnar. He's nearly 9 tenths back off the AlphaTauri, so he's got a bit of work to do to keep into that 1 second gap. Colin back up the inside into turn 3 over Zelenkiewicz. Does he get through? Yes, he does. Nothing Zelenkiewicz could do at all to defend from the Aston Martin. Also, Tony Richet will be getting to looking to get through on Zelenkiewicz as well as they head through turn 7 now. Tony Richet just 2.5 tenths behind Zelenkiewicz. Will go on board with Tony now. Can he get through? He's gaining. Less than a tenth now. Got to the inside way before the braking zone, and he'll take the position of 12. Tom Martinez also be looking to take some positions there, but Zelenkiewicz fighting back on Tony Richet now, down at turn 9. And you can see on the exit, way better exit for Tony. He gets through on Zelenkiewicz. Also, we've got Tom Martinez looking for a move. Could be looking for a double move from Tom Martinez. He comes up the inside at turn 10, nearly making contact with Tony Richet, and also nearly makes contact with Zelenkiewicz. Zelenkiewicz off the track, no losing position to, I think it was Tom Martinez yet again. They made contact down at turn 10.
Yeah, so that little bit of caution there. I think Zelenkiewicz just chose to opt
Tom
out.
go Carmen!
That's Carmen! That's
It's
Carmen round! And he's all the way down in P15.
Yeah, big shame there for Carmen. I believe he made contact, I think it was with Cornet de Baca down at turn 12. Big shame. I saw him going around. I thought it was Cornet at first, but obviously no, it was the Williams, so that's a big shame for him. He's got a bit of work to do to get back into that train. So was Oggiano. Don't know what happened to him, but he's 2.6 seconds back off that pack now, so I'm not sure if he's got a bit of damage or if he had a bit of a spin somewhere on the track. But Cornerback is now outside that 1 second gap to Camille. Camille having a really nice restart with the new fresh mediums up to P8 currently on the back of Sergio Sabrino and the Mercedes. Obviously, Mercedes not scoring too many points, but if Sergio can get a 7th, that'd be really nice for the team. But at the top, nothing's really changed much apart from Sommerkomski gaining a little bit on Yannick Schmidt. We'll go and have a look because he's gaining a lot. Does he get enough to go into turn 8? Yes, he is. He's going to go this. I know he's not. He's going to sit back. Sit for the DRS because he knows that's probably the best strategy to do. And Andre Marnot, you can see he's starting to struggle a little bit, just about 7 to 8 tenths back off the pair at the top.
Yeah, the DS is DS Nintendo. The DRS, a little bit of a strategic tool, not just for the push to pass, but also, I think in Monar's case, it might even be beneficial. While this seems counterintuitive, let Harlem go. Let Harlem go. You can use them as a tow. Recharge a bit of your battery, because right now you're kind of limping a bit, 50%. Not a great place to be on only lap 7. Use him a bit to get that recharge and then go for a counter attack a few laps down.
Yep, that could be the strategy. We'll have a look at the time entry then. You can see 49%. Harlem 64, Simon on 40, and Yannick Schmidt on 98. And Harlem nearly outside that 1 second gap to Simon now. So this could be critical for Andre Molnar to hopefully just reel in the DRS, possibly get back through and try and get him back to the DRS as Simon. But I believe Harlem did get the DRS on that straight because he gained 3 tenths during that start-finish straight. Camel Thatcher up. You can see on the back of JS, he's still in the medium tyres, not having a big advantage as they did at the start. Still quicker, but not to the point where they're able to just easily get through on someone. We're going to go on board with Camel now as he's going to charge out of turn 6 in towards turn 7 shortly on the back of JS State. Could be looking to get through on the T8 Williams driver so far. Let's have a little look on the onboard, but not able to get enough at all. You can see now starting to lack in a bit of pace these mediums are. And Simon Komski on the back of Yannick Schmidt yet again, obviously not going to make the move, but he's still going to be sticking right behind as they come out of turn 9. Now going to be charging down the back straight before turn 10.
I think Simon Komski knows that no matter what he does at this stage, he's kind of stuck. Yannick Schmidt really just has full race control right now. Yeah. It's not even a contest. Full battery, ahead of the rest of the pack, on hard tyres, so he controls the majority strategy. I think all the medium runners are technically oddballs, they're alternates. So Yannick Schmidt really has control of this. And Simon Komski, for all of his push, has to ask himself, is this a move that I'll be able to commit to, or is it better to bide my time? I would choose the latter.
Yeah, Harlem, you can see also getting a nice little bit of pace. He's just gaining to back of 4 tenths behind Simon. So Harlem could be possibly looking for a move into P2. You can see just on the through the middle sector mainly, he's gaining through the third sector mainly, he's gaining lots of time on the back of Simon. Obviously, just getting a couple of tenths up to 4 or 5 tenths back as they now charging towards turn 3. Simon, yet again, right close behind Yannick, but Yannick's not really going to use much ERS to defend because he knows Simon's not realistically going to go for a move just yet because it just wouldn't pay off. Harlem, however, could possibly be looking to make a move on Simon if he can get close enough as to come out of turn 7 now. Harlem just 5/10 back, and you can see he gains a little bit coming out of turn 6, but then he loses a little bit of time coming out of 7, so it won't be enough for him to get a move down in towards turn 8, the chicane.
Yeah, but Yannick Schmidt, just to briefly go back on him, can't rest on his laurels. He knows the pressure that's behind,
Yeah.
but at the same time, he's sitting at 100% battery, and that is a waste.
Yeah.
So you can't get lazy with it, unfortunately. There really is a juggling act being at the top, because if you let that drop, let that needle drop for even a second, as in fact Simon Lekomsky might be about to face with Harlem Marquise starting to close in properly.
Yeah.
You let the needle drop for a second and you're in trouble.
Exactly, and you can see Harlem using a bit of ERS there, and you can just see he's got just a bit more raw pace over the Alphatera. I'm going to go on board with him because you can see just within 2/10 now, Harlem probably will push for this move because he knows he can do it. And he's just coming out the final corner now, and he's gonna. That's the thing, he loses a little bit of time due to the dirty air when he's right close behind that Alphatera in the corners. He gains a little bit down the straight, but you know, it's just difficult to make a move, especially when the car in front that you're battling has got DRS as well. So it's going to be difficult for him to get through, but it's, you know, it's more than possible. Andre Molnarp still sticking within 5/10, so it's going really well for him so far. If Yannick Schmidt wins the race, he'll take the lead of the championship by 15 points, which will be really, really nice for him. Also, Cameron Dowd is in 5th at the moment, will get 10 points if it stays like this, so he'll be taking up to 86 points. That will put him 4 behind Daniel Yeltsin. So he'll stay in P4. If he can get into P3 or higher, that can put him possibly into 3rd in the championship so far. And you can see Harlem, bit of a snap there on the entry, the turn 8 at the curb. And he's still going to be sticking within that 4 to 3/10 gap on Simon ahead.
Yeah, and the crucial thing is here, that DRS, it's such a deciding factor in a lot of these fights to quantify how much of a DRS affects things. It's like having an extra mini battery on tap. Same amount of power equivalent, same amount of boost, but yeah, almost for free. Well, saying that, looks like some moves.
Yep, Corey de Baca on the back of Sergio Sabrina, mainly make contact down at turn 12. It was very close. Probably wouldn't be able to fit a finger between the gap those two cars were. Coming out at turn 12, bit of a slide from Cornet, but nothing too harmful. He's going to be gaining on Sergio. You can see using lots of his ERS to try and get through on the hard runner, but it's just not paying off for how he would want it to. Camel Sujatura, it's worked well for him. He's now into P7 with his 9-lap-old mediums. He will obviously pit onto a new set of mediums when the others pit onto their mediums. So at the moment, looking really, really good for Camel. It's still looking quite good for Tony and Cornet as well if they can keep within it and not make too many mistakes. Tony Richet just 2/10 behind Cornet as they come out of turn 7. He's got the DRS, obviously, because Cornet's got it in front. It will mean that Tony's not going to have much of an advantage with the ERS. Actually, we could have a battle into turn 8. Tony Richet going for a dummy move as Cornet was looking for a dummy move on Sergio as well. So it was dummy moves galore there between those three as they come into turn 8. And Lars Butterman with a 3-second time penalty. Tony Richet on the back of Cornet de Baca. Also, Harlem Marquis getting through on Simon Lekomsky. Going to go to them too. And you can see Harlem into P2 now. Just 1/10 behind Yannick Schmidt. And that is also Tony Richet ahead of Cornet de Baca. So we had lots of moves going into turn 10 then. Cornet de Baca still fighting back with Tony, but we're going to keep on board with Harlem because we want to see if he's going to look for a move on Yannick. I don't think he will, but you never know as they come through in towards 14 and 15.
I think it's that same quandary that Simon Lekomsky was in a few laps back, and just having to weigh up whether it's worth a move going for and whether it's one he'll be able to guard. I think Tony Richet, just earlier, I think he got a little bit spooked by what Cornet de Baca was doing, and that dummy is kind of a classic example of defense. As they going for it, psyching out your opponent into thinking you're going somewhere and then going somewhere else. It's a cornerstone of defending and race tactics. Not to the point where it's disruptive. Of course, you can only make one defensive move, but that being said, it was still a really good use of a dummy there to throw off, and even if only for a couple of corners, still get a great job of holding Tony Richet at bay.
Yep, definitely. We're sticking on board with Harlem as he's on the back of Yannick Schmidt Don't think he'll go for a move. He might be close enough, but I don't think he'll go for it. Actually, he wasn't close enough, anyway. You can see just lets off as he comes into the braking zone. A bit lift and coast. It's always good as well because it can save your battery a little bit, save your tyre wear, and save your fuel. So it could go, you know, it's a pretty good tactic for Harlem to save a bit of ERS. You can see Yannick still on 95% because he knows Harlem's not going to go for a move, so he doesn't need to worry. Actually, Harlem getting close into the braking zone at turn 12, and yeah, you can see he's playing that tactic where he just wants to stick behind and get the ERS, as you can see. DRS, sorry, as you can see, he come through into turn 11 within a tenth of Yannick, but still chose to stick behind him as I went through turn 11 into 12. And you can see now into the final couple of corners yet again, Harlem will get the DRS benefit. And because Yannick knows Harlem's not going to go for a move, Yannick can be a bit more softer when he goes into the braking zones. Just, you know, do a bit of lift and coasting because he can help heavily as they come out on the exit. You can see Harlem yet again gains, but it's good for Yannick because he doesn't gain enough to get a move. So it can go. It's working well for these two. They're going to play the team game, work together, and get to the end. Obviously, they'll be fighting probably on the pit stops. So I'm sure one of them will go for an undercut or an overcut when it comes to the pit stops. But apart from that, there's not much battling going on between the top five. It's all about just keeping that position and, you know, being stable in that position you're in.
I don't know. If I was in Harlem's position, I would be going a little bit more aggressive purely because we said about the ERS and how Yannick completely controls it with a full battery and being at the top end of the pace. If I can get my Red Bull down the side of that Aston Martin, or at least pressure him into starting to use a bit more battery in a defensive manner, you can slowly whittle that down. And so by the time you get to the pit window, you might have a little bit of an opportunity if you play your cards right.
Possibly, but the question is, what resources does Harlem have at his disposal to see what ERS Yannick's on? That's the thing. If he doesn't have the data, he's not going to be looking to, you know, try anything. But the thing is as well, I suppose, it can also be damage limitation. If Harlem fights with Yannick hard, it could cause a collision. Also, it could cause them to go off track, it cause them to go wide, which then could allow Simon through. So I think Harlem's just playing the safe game, sticking within the DRS, and possibly looking to fight after the pit stops. That would be the most plausible thing to do. And you can see JSC and Camel Stature are into the pit lane now. So this is where we'll see the pit stops starting to happen as we enter halfway of the race, lap 14 out of 27. Yannick Schmidt leading the race by just over 3/10 over Harlem Marquis and Sam Lukomsky in third.
Yeah, this is sort of where we get to the transfer window over the next few laps. I think it's safe to assume, like, the inaction of certain drivers often provokes information. So if I know that Yannick hasn't really flashed his recharge lights once, then I know he's not overtaking, like pressing the overtake button. If I know he's not pressing the overtake button, then I know that he's going to have a lot of battery stored up, and it's safe to assume that it's going to be higher than mine. Otherwise, he'd be getting a lot more skittish. You'd know about it.
Yeah, yeah, you do make a fair point there. That could be the case for Yannick, and you know, the thing is though, I suppose Harlem doesn't need to worry because he knows that he's easily able to keep into the DRS of Yannick. So does he really need to think about pushing through yet on the first stint? Is it worth just waiting till the last few laps and then going for a push on the back of Yannick? Because obviously Harlem's got DRS to aid, whereas Yannick's got only ERS. So as whereas Harlem's only going to have to use a little bit of ERS and then the rest of the DRS to help power him through down the straights, Yannick's then going to have to use his ERS, probably triple or quadruple the time, you know, the amount, to stay ahead of Harlem. And you can see that Tony Richet, along with some of the others in the pits, Corne de Baca with a 5-second time penalty. Simon Lukomsky, Andre Molnar, Cameron Downs, Sergio Sabrino, Tony Richet, Corne de Baca and Noel Common all into the pit lane to get a new, fresh set of boots. Harlem Marquis and Yannick Schmidt, however, still going to be staying out so far.
Yeah, a key remaining force at the moment, and they're going to see if they can hold it out for at least a lap longer. I think maybe it was a little bit coordinated so that there wouldn't be any crossing over. But saying that, I say the Red Bull side of things, Leroy Brown is only on 11-lap-old mediums because you think he pitted a couple of laps later than everyone else. And while it did net him at the bottom of the position, it means that it wouldn't be in that danger zone for a double stack.
On Lukomsky into turn 3, so I'll just cut you off there, Sappy, but Molnar ahead of Sam Lukomsky now as they come out to the pit stop stage. So that's Andre into a net, actually not net P3. Look at where Jay and Camel have came out. ahead
Oh,
of Andre
wow.
and Simon. So this is working really well. Simon with the DRS on the back of Andre gets through again. Back on Andre now to put himself into that, well, it was provisional third, but now looking possibly to be provisional fifth, because Jay and Camel's strategy has really, really worked out for them so far.
So this strategy has sort of been weaponized in the last moment. It's turned into an absolute tour de force. You see the top runners are now heading into the pits. That's Yannick Schmidt, Harlan Marquise. I believe that Tom is also going in. Yes, Timo Zelenkiewicz going to be joining them. Are we going to see Lars Butterman heading into the pits as well? Yes, we are. But we're not going to see Ogiano heading into the pits. They're going to be going around for another lap. Going to try and overcut it even harder. But it looks like there's fighting behind Lakomsky as Molnar and Dowds are continuing to tussle and looking like they're getting very much in each other's space as we head through Sector 3.
They are, and that's dead ahead. Not going to be much of a switch back for Andre, but he's going to be pushing after Cameron, but I don't think his pushing is going to be enough. Cameron Sacho with the fastest lap now on the back of JSD, and where has Yannick come out?
Yeah, it's coming out P2.
P2. Ahead of Harlem, ahead of Jay, and ahead of Camel. So now, the net podium positions are Yannick in first, Harlem in second, and JSD in P3.
Yeah, that big shuffle up really just sort of put the world to rights a little bit with some of the ordering. So now we've gone from, say, Lakomsky has gone to a net 5th place.
Yeah.
JST up to net 3. And then Yannick and Harlem continue to fight at the top with Camille up now in net P4. Crazy. It's completely shuffled around in the space of a few laps. That's the magic of the pit window.
It has really shook up. And you can see JST on the back of Harlem as they come through into turn 10. And he's not close enough to make a move. Just 2.5 tenths back. Leroy Brown and Cornelius Batka fighting down at turn 10, Labose. And Harlem right on the back of right on the back of Yannick, sorry. Just a tenth between those two. And you can see Harlem's got genuine better pace over Yannick.
Yeah, it's just keeping that push, keeping that gunning alive. Mind you, Yannick still has 80% battery to Harlem's 25. So, again, a case of managing your resources and something to be very aware of. And I'm sure Harlem is definitely aware of the fact they're on low battery. Again, with that assumption that Yannick is going to be on high, Sergio Sabrino gets a penalty for corner cutting, it looks like. Not sure what happened there.
Corner cutting and gaining a place, so he could have been pushed off possibly, and he's got back on the track and got ahead of the person. So I'm sure that'll be looked at by the stewards at the end of the race. But yeah, again, on board with Harlem as he's charging after Yannick.
He's just keeping an eye on him right now, looking for any potential moves. He is recharging a little bit of ERS through the use of other means, but say Yannick is keeping his cool. He's keeping himself nice and planted, firm like a tree. Plant his roots and say, no, you move. But Harlem is going to take him up on his offer potentially. Quarter of a second down, is in tow range, full overtake. He's going for it. He's gunning it. Down the back straight. He's going to get a purple sector 2 for his efforts, and is going to immediately go round Yannick Schmidt. But is he going to be able to hold it? He's going to be tucking behind that Aston Martin, peeking his nose around the inside line. Not quite going to be able to commit as Harlem goes arcing back in. And now the tables have been turned a little bit. So Harlem has only got 17%, 16 and counting. But Yannick is sitting on 80. And he's going to be looking for that right time to go for a move. I will fully expect a counter-attack as we head down to the start-finish straight. DRS fully active. No use of the overtake yet, though. Maybe it's just not that opportune time yet. But Harlem, throughout all of that, does get the fastest lap, 32.0.
Yeah, I presume Yannick will want to stick him behind there because he's got more ERS than Harlem. And if he can keep having more ERS than Harlem, it can really help him in the latter stages of the race. You know, when it comes onto the last few laps, he'll have 80%. Harlem will have 20, maybe a little bit higher if he can save. So it's going to work very well for Yannick if he can just sit behind for now and then charge on the last few laps and go for, you know, a really good move. 3 tenths of the gap between them. I can't see Yannick going for a move. And you can see JSD just 9 tenths back, so he's starting to lose a little bit of time on that field ahead. And actually Yannick going for a move on Harlem down at turn 8. I didn't expect to see that one coming, so he completely did the opposite of what I said he would. And Harlem Yeah, again, got to be gaining, and he actually loses time on the back of Yannick as they head through into turn 10. Brings JSD back into it now, only 6 tenths behind.
It's going to be a game of leapfrog between these two at this stage. Of course, Harlem's going to be burning what they have and using whatever resources are at their disposal to whittle down Yannick. Because right now, yes, 73. So that is a notable difference in battery. If they can keep leapfrogging, you might be able to see a case where Yannick is running out of battery, just like Harlem is, but Harlem's going to be in the right position at the right time. Of course, DRS coming out, start finish straight. Is he going to be going for an immediate return move? Does look like he struggled a little bit on the exit, but he's starting to gain a little bit back. Is it going to be enough? No, not quite. Just enough to get within the beam wings area of influence. And with Yannick really just, again, controlling the pace. I sound like a broken record, but you can't really avoid the fact that he's got such a foothold on the entire race pace, the entire field by proxy. You really have to question what the others can do beyond just sort of delay what might become an inevitable if the pattern has been followed.
Yeah, it's going to look well for Yannick, even if he can finish on the podium, because he'll promise to lead the championship ahead of Harvey. So, he could, he's very much in the fight now for the championship. And I think, if he can keep on this form of getting wins, getting second place and getting third, it could look to go in the way of Yannick Schmidt this season. It just depends what Harvey can fight back next week. And I believe we're at Bahrain, aren't we?
Yeah, it's still crazy to think about.
Round 8 already. Next week.
Crazy stuff. And I've just been thinking about that and looking a little bit at the championship standings. We're still going to see shakeups. I know we said before about lockouts and starting to hone in your predictions, but at the same time, if things are going to be keeping going the way they are, then we might see the championship, the lead, still chopping and changing race to race, and I live for that kind of thing.
Exactly, because if Yannick was to win now, we'd take the lead by 15 points over Harvey. If Harvey comes back next week and wins, and Yannick doesn't, then it puts Harvey back in the championship lead, coming back with a 3-second time penalty. So, it's going to get really interesting now as we get into the latter stages of the season. It's when drivers are going to be pushing more to get the wins, to get any position they can. As at this point, every point matters. At the start of the season, it doesn't matter as much as long as you're getting good points, but now, you could be looking at the difference between 5th and 4th. It's 2 points at the end of a championship. That's a lot. At the start of the championship, it's nothing.
Yeah, I'd say the massive disparity, I think, is one that we have to note, is that the value of points massively fluctuates over the course of a season.
Yeah.
Of course, if you're sitting there with a 50-point lead, then another 10 isn't going to really dent what you have. But if you're in a 4-way battle and it's separated by 5 points, suddenly it means absolutely everything. And that's going to reflect in how hard you race.
Exactly. And drivers will be pushing more. Yannick, so far, he's had more of a, I'd say more of a relaxed season so far. He had a bit of a push strategy, I think it was in Belgium. But apart from that, he's been just kind of relaxing, getting some good positions, just sticking to them positions, not bothering fighting too hard, for a position. So if he can get the win now, puts him into first. If you can hold that and possibly get a win or another 2nd or 3rd place in round 8, it's really, really going to help him. All the main thing now is for Yannick is to be finishing ahead of Harvey, even if that's even by 1 position. He can't be sitting behind Harvey in races anymore. He's got to be ahead to win the championship. That's just it's the way it works. I know I'm selling White Will Buxton, but it's just the way it is. Had it gone off a little bit there, then it's turn 6. Baz Palmer's at the session, and that's in the pit lane. So
yeah, it looks like maybe just cut his losses there.
Into the pit lane. He's going to be pitting onto possibly softs, I believe, as he comes in. I'm going borderly right to see what size he does pit onto. And he's quite the he's quite the pit lane on old hards. Wait, so did he serve it? I'm very confused. I didn't see him pit for any new tyres, but it said he was in the pit lane.
Just served. Maybe he simply served, but Yeah, I have to wonder what happened there. But really, if I was in Yannick's position, I have to assess my situation. So, one, I'm not truly safe until I get out of that 1 second window.
Yeah.
Because every time that's happening, I know that Harlem is going to be slowly biding his time, either getting closer to me or recharging his ERS. I mean, you look at him now, 43% to Yannick's 83, and that change, that 20% odd change since we last checked on him, is going to make a big difference, especially when the pendulum finally swings,
Yeah.
the pendulum of the lead. Um, so if I'm Yannick, yes, of course, I can relax a little bit because I do control the pace, but I wouldn't be so comfortable purely because I'm really looking at where my opponents stand and what they are slowly preparing for. And I fully expect that either on the penultimate lap or the final lap, Harlem's going to have slowly charged all of his battery,
Yeah.
and that's going to be strike time.
Yeah. Harlem's definitely in it for the win, I think. This race, it'll definitely, I think, between Harlem and Yannick. Obviously, Harlem was racing at F2 in PSGL last week at Spain. He was looking to take the win comfortably, but he'd been down at turn 3, and he was out the race after, I think, just after the pit stop. So, that was a big shame for him, and I think now he knows he was looking for a win in another league. He wants to be able to prove he can do it, so he'll be looking to push for it today in this race. Obviously, he's not in the championship fight at all, so he just wants to get as many good positions and as many podiums and wins as he can.
Yeah, I think it's just maximizing where he is now. Yeah, he may not be in the championship, but he's got an opportunity, and damn well will he take it. So here we go. DRS now, getting a little bit closer, and yeah, just that yo-yo effect, almost just trying to reel him in just enough so that he knows he's going to be in the right position for the next zone. Say Corne de Backer is retiring in the pit lane. That's 4 retirements now.
Yeah.
In this session. So yeah, 4 out of 20.
2 on track, 2 in the pit lane.
Not sure what's going on with Corne there, though.
No, mate, that's an odd one because he was in the points positions, wasn't he?
He was in the points positions, but he also had 8 seconds to his name. So 5 of those, I believe, were for... Actually, was that or Sergio? Sergio was the one who was corner cutting. Well, potentially to be reviewed by stewards, of course.
It puts... It puts Corne at a disadvantage even more now because he hasn't scored points in any race. He's DNF'd now 6 out of 7 races this season. So, he's had a really, really bad season, unfortunately. And I don't like to say it, but he has. When you've DNF'd 6 out of 7 races, does that mean you're not on the pace of the drivers ahead? I mean, in the TIA, do you need to be dropped down, or does it just mean you're just not consistent enough to be, to be scoring points and not making it to the end of races?
Well, to finish first you have to finish. You know what they say.
Exactly.
It is an unfortunate case of, I think, just either it's a mix, because you can't say that they don't have the pace or they wouldn't be here. You can't say they don't have the skill. But that skill can also take different forms, and whether that is consistency or whether that is sometimes it's purely a case of getting frustrated by the game. But you have to make that decision. Am I going to keep going, or am I going to let my frustration win? That's a tough decision to make. I don't fault anyone necessarily for being in that position and choosing to dip. But at the same time, you look at the track record, you look at the bigger picture. In this case, like you said, 6 out of 7 DNFs. Then you really have to weigh up and sort of put aside to think, okay, I may have got a bad hand, but if I'm finishing last, at least I'm finishing.
Exactly. And that's the thing, like, obviously I'm a lot slower than these guys. So I was doing a league race a couple of weeks ago. And, that's Lars Butterman around at turn 5. But yeah, I was in a league race a couple of weeks ago, and it was Bahrain. I got spun around at turn 1, and I was a good 30 seconds back off the pack, and I was 16th. And I was so tempted just to pit and retire, but at the end of the day, what's the point in that? You don't gain anything from just doing that. You're just going to have a DNF now on your board, and I'd rather have a 16th than a DNF, to be honest. So, sometimes I understand why drivers do the pit and retire because I want to do it all the time, but sometimes it's like, it'd surely look better just to finish the race. It'd look better for you, and it'd make it so we don't have 16 Fs on the board at the end of every race.
Yeah, it is, of course, that judgment call for drivers to make, and
Hmm.
everyone has their opinions.
Yeah,
I now see, though, why Leroy went onto the softs. That's to steal away the fastest lap, 30.8. No one's going to be going for it now. So he's effectively locked out that extra point in a little bit of damage control, which
yeah.
I think was quite smart of him, to be honest, on the front of
Last button.
words. But saying that, Harlem was the one with the fastest lap.
But
So, in all other
mm,
situations, I'd agree, but it looks like kind of a little bit of a shot in the foot for the team there.
as we talk about Harlem, though, look at how much ERS he's got. He's got more ERS. He's actually going to go for the move down at turn 8. Takes the outside line into turn 8, gets ahead of Jan Schmidt and takes the lead of the race. So that's Harlem now into the net, first position, but he's got to try and hold it back. He's got to try and keep it because Janet's going to fight back as they come down into turn 10. He's not going to be enough, but he's still going to be fighting. And the big thing to take away from this is JSC is not going to have the DRS at hand. So now I think the battle for the first place is between Yannick and Harlem. You can see Yannick going for a move up the inside, not enough. Leroy Brown gets a 5-second penalty for speeding the pit lane, retires. So that's now 16F so far. So not the
Yeah.
best at all, but it is what it is. But we've still got two drivers fighting for this win, and it's going to be good because they're both getting their elbows out and they're both going to be getting ready for a big battle. We head on to the penultimate lap of the race now, and Yannick's charging after Harlan Marquis as they head down the main straight. He's not going to be close enough on this straight, but he could be close enough as they head into turn 8.
I think Harlem might have fired off the pendulum a little bit too early just because Yannick has such a good means to get back on him. And also, I'm not sure if Harlem might have damage or not. I see a red wrench on the telemetry, but I haven't got more details about it. Could be suffering a tiniest bit of damage. Oh no, saying that, it has gone away now. But yeah, I feel like Yannick, with a full battery versus 40%, could be in a position to go for the retake and hold it through the final lap.
Yeah, no comment. Going on to some soft tyres, I believe he'll be taking the fastest lap. Well, attempting to take the fastest lap at least. But the red, like mechanics on the telemetry, I think that is to say that your teammates in the pits because it only showing up when Leroy was pitting.
Yeah, I see. Never mind, my mistake then.
You can see Yannick was not close enough to get through on Harlem in that straight down towards turn 8. He's not close enough either to get him in towards turn 11. So I think Harlem, I think he might have secured this. Yannick's going to fight back into turn 12, I mean 11, sorry. But he's just not close enough, so I think this could be it for Harlem. It all
Yeah,
just
that could
depends
be
on
it.
how Yannick fights on the final lap of the race.
He's going to have to put in the lap of his life on this one because he's got all the odds stacked against him. He's got, of course, the same tyres, but that battery makes such a difference now. Is Yannick going to go for the gun now, or is he going to fire off into the second DRS zone? He's going to be holding back a little bit, tucking in nice and close behind. A little bit of ERS usage there from the Aston Martin, but you can see he's just peeking right, peeking left, looking for any opportunity to get round or at least establish a good through line before we head into the next DRS zone. Almost going for a move coming out of the first sector. He's getting so close to the back of that Red Bull right now, and he's just inching to get past. He knows that as soon as that second DRS zone hits, it's going to be now or never. Harlem knows it too. He burns everything, heads as close to the inside as he can, tries to throw off Yannick, but Yannick is still just going to have that raw advantage, burns almost half a battery's worth to get it round that Red Bull, and that could be it. But is it Harlem going to return with anything? He's going to be firing every volt through that rear axle, but no, it's not enough. Yannick's getting away, and yeah, that could be the fate sealed.
It could be, and I think it looks like it's going to be a win for Yannick. He's fought back really well. Harlem took the lead and it was looking like it was going Harlem's way. But I think now it's clear to say it's solidified for Yannick. Harlem, I think, jumped the gun a little bit early with that overtake. Camel Satcher also finding Cameron Dowd down at the final couple of corners. But here he is, Yannick Schmidt into the final corner for the final time of this race. He's had an amazing race, amazing qualifying, and has been on the pace all the time. Yannick Schmidt comes to the line to win the French Grand Prix here at WR PC Tier 2.
A brilliant job done there. Yeah, Yannick just had an absolute full control of this entire scenario, start to finish. even as things get overcast now, it's a little bit too late. But yeah, just full control. Looked
Yeah.
absolutely unstoppable in that Aston Martin today.
And I'd like to say my driver of the day has got to go to Jay. Amazing strategy it's pulled off, and it really worked out for him. He's come on P3. Really, really, really nice. I'm
All
just going
right,
to
so
have a look.
you won. You won out of
Oh,
us
wait,
too.
yeah,
I
I
put my
did.
money on Lekomsky. Pizza's on me.
It's going to see if we can get some drivers in for an interview. If it'd be nice. Andre Molnar started third. He actually dropped down the last couple of corners. Dropped down to the bottom. Let's see if we can get some drivers in the interview channel.
Yeah, let's have a look. Hopefully we get a chance to talk to a couple of them.
Be nice. Also be nice to figure out what happened with Mark. I'll have a look in the chat later. Mark did say, I don't know why you guys can't race clean. Is it so bleeping hard? Bogdan says, great start. Yannick Schmidt, really great. Andre Molnar, what the effing are you doing with your 5-second penalty at Sergio Sabino? Why? From Andre Molnar. So there's lots of angriness in the chat. Sergio says it's unfair. So there's lots of things going on in the chat so far. So lots of hatred, but well, not hatred, I'd say dislike between
lot
some
of
of the
heat.
drivers after that race.
A little bit of heat going round, fair to say, but
definitely.
such as many races, let's be honest. It can be sometimes a case of things don't go your way. You let off a bit of steam. I mean, we care a lot. With your drivers, you care a lot about the race. And of course, when things don't go your way, you're naturally annoyed about it. There's
Yeah.
things that don't go your way and things that sometimes are out of your control. But it's fair to let off some steam because, of course, we come back next week and everything's hunky dory. Like everyone's chill to each other at the end of the day.
Exactly. That's how it always works, isn't it? Every
Yeah,
single time they fail. Harlan Marquis is waiting for an interview, so we'll drag him in. Let's get him in out. Hang on. Harlem, welcome in.
Hello.
Really nice race from you. It worked out really well. You obviously qualified fourth. You had a really great start, didn't you, going down towards turn one over, I think it was
Yeah.
Lukomsky, and then obviously behind Yannick. Do you think you jumped it a bit early, getting the overtake on Yannick near the end?
Yeah, what it is, right? I was really comfortable following him, but then as soon as I took the lead twice. As soon as I took the lead, I don't know, I was not used to the braking points, and I kind of made a lot of little mistakes.
Yeah.
And that kind of really cost it.
Yeah.
But he had really good pace at the end of it, so I think even if I didn't make the mistakes, he probably would have had me. He had the ERS advantage, but it was a good race. Quali was unfortunate. I mean, obviously P4 is good, but I actually invalidated both my first runs. So my last run was kind of a one-shot, please
Yeah.
don't invalidate kind of run. But yeah, no, overall good race. Harvey wasn't in, so championship, you never know. Ooh.
Exactly. It's going to make it a bit more interesting. Obviously, you was on really low ERS after the first pit stop. Was that just because you wanted to stick within the train, or?
No, it's because obviously I had to make the moves. I started P4 or something, and then I had to overtake. I don't know who it was, the Haas, and then I had to get past Simon as well. And then after that, it was just a case of I had to kind of keep up with Yannick, but at the same time try to recharge. And then obviously on the pit lap, we have to push to stop the undercut. So yeah, I mean Yannick was just clear in this race, but GG's to him. And next race, hopefully, I can get the win.
Do you think you're quick in Bahrain, or is it one of your strong
I would say in Bahrain in the race, I'm much better than I am in quali. Not that I'm slow in quali, but I'd definitely say I'm much better in the race. So you never know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, so fingers crossed. I mean, you really sort of pulled it out of the bag today and held that. Sort of held your own there. I think one thing I have to ask is what made you pick the timing to go for that move to get past, of course, that final few laps. But up to that point, you were just sort of hanging behind. Was there a particular thought process behind when you decided to go, or was it just like a flip switch? Right, time to do this.
Well, normally you like to go with odd numbers left, so that if you do end up swapping around, you can get them back on the last lap. But then as soon as I was like, okay, let me just see if I can pull a gap. I tried to use some ERS, and then he stayed like 3-4 tenths behind. I was like, oh, right. this is not the best idea. And then after that, it was a couple of mistakes. But yeah, no, it was kind of trying to surprise him, but it didn't work. So we'll learn, we'll live, and we'll learn, and we'll go again next week.
Yeah, definitely. And the P2 is still something good to take away. So
Yeah,
yeah, really
exactly.
nice race, and we'll see you next time. So thanks for joining
Thank
us,
you.
Harlem. Bye.
No worries. Thank you.
So there, everyone, the end of the race. We spoke to Harlem. I think it's the first time we spoke to him this season, so it's nice to have a nice chat with him after a really good race. And I'd say it was a good race near the end when all the pit stops come through. We had Camille and Jay getting involved at first, and it was then a thing of, well, is Simon and Andre going to be able to get through on those and get themselves back into the podium positions? Is Yannick going to be able to defend enough from Harlem? So it was all very psychological at the end of what's going to happen. But I think it was a really good race. I enjoyed that, to be honest, especially when it comes to France. You don't normally see the best racing in leagues around here, but I think it was really good today, especially some of the moves going through and towards turn 11.
Well, I like to think of it like a story, and every race is a story. In this case, it's just happened to be so that the exact start, the exact middle, and the exact end
Hmm.
were the absolute peak moments of
Yeah,
this race story. So, of course, you had the fiery start, the 3, 4 wide, the 2 outs, the safety car, and that kind of shake up everything in terms of strategy, say double mediums. And you move on to the middle where you had some big shake-ups in the orders, like
hmm,
Camel coming through with that pit stop window. And then, of course, at the end, it turns into psychological
yeah,
warfare with the top runners. And it's captivating. I don't know how else to describe it. Just gives me hope for the rest of the calendar, because you got to think we still got 7 more races of
yeah.
this. It's amazing.
And I'm just gonna have a little look at the standings yet again, and I'm gonna try and add it up in my head. Obviously, Yannick now will take the lead by 15 points over Harvey, which is a significant amount. So Harvey's going to have a lot to fight for in the next race. Obviously, Harlem getting his first podium in the season. Second podium of the season. He's going to be getting what? He'll be on 48 points, so he could be looking for a possible fifth or sixth in the championship at the moment, which would be really good. Jay also getting his next podium as well. That'll help him in his charge. So I think there'll be a battle for the top position, which I think will be between the top four. Then I think fifth down to about ninth is where we're going to see that midfield battle, for that top five and the top 10. So it's going to be a really great end to the championship, I think.
Yeah, I can't wait for it. So the top 5, especially, like we said earlier, it's going to see him chopping and changing. Even though we're in the second half of season
Hmm.
and things should stabilize, none of the sort here is looking like,
Yeah.
because we've just had, say, a mass surge to the top from Yannick Schmidt. So everything is fair game.
Yeah, and obviously next week we're off to Bahrain, which is it's a difficult track. I'd say one of the most difficult because you've got to be careful going into turn one. You don't lock up, especially when battling with people. Then you got turn 9, the downhill left-handing braking zone, which is really easy for people to mess up on. You can either lock up and just go straight on, or you lock up and hit the curb. So it's really difficult to get it right there. And then you've got sometimes people tend to struggle with turn 11 and turn 12 as you're going to be really careful on the throttle and not lose grip. So that'll be interesting for the drivers. Then obviously we head off to Saudi Arabia where we have our second and final sprint race of the season, which will be really fun as well. I think round Saudi, it's more of qualifying matters, especially in that sprint race. If you can get yourself into the second position, I think the sprint race is definitely in your favour. And if you can get a win in the sprint race, that's 8 points. Coming into a championship, 8 points is a lot. So that could be, that could throw some interesting and entertainment into the championship. Then after that, we're off to Abu Dhabi. Another interesting track. Sometimes I'd say to be honest, the skill around Abu Dhabi has gone significantly lower, because obviously the second sector and the first sector have changed with the removal of the chicanes, so it makes it a bit of an easier track to drive in there. So it's more about just trains. So I don't think we'll have much of an interesting race there. Head to Imola, which is another one of the old school Hungary Zandvoort type tracks. You're not going to see too much overtaking, so it'll be more about consistency, just being able to keep with the cars ahead. And then by then we're already in April. Then we head off to China. I'd say I don't really like that track, to be fair. It's a very difficult track to drive. It doesn't really promote much great racing, especially when you come down into that final sector, because a lot of the time people just lock up and go straight on, or they just outbreak themselves completely and get issues when trying to switch back. Then we're off to Britain for there's a penultimate round, which is a really good race, probably one of my favourites on the calendar, and then the final round at Austria, which will close it all off, which is I think we'll probably see the title end in China. I don't know who will take it, but I feel like China's going to be the time when we call the champion. What do you think, Sappy? When do you think that the title's over?
I don't know. I'm tempted to agree with you there. I mean, in terms of the race I'm most looking forward to, it has to be the sprint weekend. Just because I almost think like sprints as if they were a snowball.
Hmm.
You get some good initial times, you get a really good qualifying, that snowballs into a really good sprint, that sprint snowballs into a really good race. So if we're going to see any of the biggest changes on the field, it's going to be there.
Yeah, that's definitely more than possible. So I think I think the next two races are going to be my favourite together. Bahrain, obviously, we got Harlem, who he said he's better on the race pace. I'm sure a lot of drivers are like that as well around Bahrain. So then we got Sedi. So I think that's going to be good two races together. So yeah, it's going to be fun, isn't it?
I can't wait. I certainly can't wait.
But yeah, that's the French Grand Prix over for Tier 2. Obviously, Yannick Schmidt taking another win. I think it's his second or third win of the season so far. Harlem taking second, his second podium, and then JSD taking his second podium of the season. So it's been a great race. We've seen everyone who's been to the podium has been there before. So we haven't seen many new podium cities today. And pole position with Simon Klopski, I think that's his second pole of the season now. So the only person to take two poles, I believe. So really nice from him, but obviously he just couldn't perform it into race results. So it's been a great race. And now we're going to say goodbye because it's the end. We'll be back next week for Bahrain. So thank you everyone for joining us. It's been nice to see you all in the chat today. I haven't had as much chat interaction as usual, but it's fine. I'm sure you all enjoyed watching the race. Anyway, so thank you everyone for joining, and it's a goodbye from me and Sappy.
Take care, folks. We'll see you next time.